Hello. In this screencast, we're going to work on building a hyper63 adapter. The purpose of this screencast is to work through the hyper63 open source project system and learn how we can implement some of the modules as part of that framework. My name is Tom Wilson, and we'll go through this process to create an adapter for a very simple port. The port we created in an earlier screencast called the echo port, which is just a simple function that returns a promise and returns the string that you gave it. We're going to implement a um, we're going to implement a adapter called the greetings adapter. So this adapter will just take your string in the echo function, and then it'll return hello and that string out. So pretty straightforward, but the focus is more about how we would go about building an adapter for Hyper63. So the first thing we want to do is make a directory, Hyper63 adapter greetings. And then we'll cd into that directory, and we'll init our project. And let's go ahead and add some things. So we created the port before, so let's add that so we can kind of test our adapter out with that port. So we'll add tape to do our testing. And we'll add the dev dependency, and I namespaced it twilson63, and it's hyper63 dash port dash echo. Okay, so we got that, and now we want to change our package JSON and add a type of module, and this will give us ESM support. And then we'll create a index.js file, and we're going to want to create an adapter.js file, and we'll create a index test.js and an adapter test.js. Okay, so the index file is kind of a config file for the adapter. It tells Hyper63 what the name of the adapter is, what port it's for, and then it provides two methods on how Hyper63 can load the adapter and link it into the Hyper63 service framework. So if we take a look at that, we'll import our adapter, and this adapter file will contain our adapter logic, and then we're going to export kind of uh, the connector object. So we'll export a function, and this function will turn an object with an ID of greeting, a port of echo, because that's the port we're going to use, and then a load function. This load function can be used to take an environment from the initialization of the adapter. So it could take this environment here and return that. And since adapters are pipeable, it's going to return stuff. So in this case, we could just return an empty environment like that. But you could put in here like your connection string or your server URL, etc., in that load. And then the link function. And the link function, we need to return the adapter. And it is kind of a manual query. So the first function will get the environment, and then the second function will get a pipeline of apps. And we're not going to have any apps, so we're going to just put an underscore there and go to the last function where we will call our adapter, and we're going to pass it in the environment. And this environment comes from this load function. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, I think you'll see that when we work on the adapter, kind of how it works together. So that is the index, and basically it is just the contract between the service framework and the adapter so that the service framework can pull the adapter in and really kind of run it against the port and make sure that the adapter is doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. So cool. And then the next thing we want to do is do our adapter.js file. So adapter.js, and we're just going to export because we don't really have any dependencies. Um, and we take the environment, and we're just going to return the echo function, and it will take a string, and then we'll return a promise of hello string. Cool. And that's our adapter. Uh, Not much to it, but in this adapter is where you would implement all the implementation details. So if you're building an adapter to Redis, for example, you would take the port specifications and then connect that to the Redis client and implement each one of those functions in the specifications using the Redis um, client to provide that. So this is where the magic happens, right? Um, so with this Echo service, it's not doing a lot, but it should give you a good idea of what's going on. But even if it's not a lot of code, we still should do a test. So we're going to test our adapter, and we'll import tape as test, and we'll import the adapter that we want to test. And then we'll run our test. Echo hello world. And we're only going to do one test or one assertion in this test. So we'll plan on one, and we will instantiate the adapter, not pass it any environment. And then we'll just say, you know, a.echo world should equal hello world. Right? And that's it. That's our first test. We'll give that a spin. Okay. And let's see. We brought in an adapter. We called adapter. So adapter is returning an empty object, which is interesting. Um, yeah. So what's happening here is we're not accounting for the promise. So the echo method returns a promise that needs to be resolved. So we can do that pretty simply. We can just do async and then await on that. Okay. And now if we run it, cool. We are passing. Sweet. Um, so that's a really simple test. We could do another test, maybe a sad path test. So like test echo um, null, something like that, and essentially do the same thing. And if we pass null in here, what do we get? Okay. And it just converts it to null. But we may not want that. We may want, our adapter to not allow nulls. So we could do a couple of things depending on what we want to do. We could throw an error, right? Or we could, kind of return an either, or we could just return a blank string or whatever. But I'll leave that to you to figure out how you want to implement your echo service. If they give us a null, maybe we just return a default or something like that. Let's do that. So anyway, it would get more interesting, but it's important to, kind of test your adapter both for happy and sad pass. So let's see. Still coming back null. Just curious. Yeah. Okay. So undefined, it works. And let's just handle null real quick, just because it's a good thing to do. Um, let's do it here. Cool. So we're dealing with a string, then undefined, and then null. And so that tests our adapter, kind of like a unit test. Let's go ahead and test our index. And the main reason for this is to kind of show you how Hyper kind of wraps up adapters. This will give you a good idea on how that works. So we're going to import tape, and we're going to import our greetings adapter from index, and we're going to import our port from Wilson 63 hyper63 dash port echo. Okay. And then we're going to just test that this index code does what it needs to do. So we're just going to test to make sure that it's okay. Maybe we'll say index is okay. Hey. Um, So we'll set up our plan, and then we're gonna do a try, because if you remember in the port screencast, if the adapter's not valid, it will throw an exception. So we're gonna catch that, and then we're gonna um, set up our adapter. So let's just call it adapter greetings, and then we're gonna call the load function, which will return our new environment, right? So we're gonna call adapter.load, and then we're gonna call our link function. So I'm gonna say adapter.link. We're gonna pass in the environment, because that's what the hyper63 um, framework does. So we'll pass in the environment, and then we're gonna, now that we've got our adapter, we're gonna wrap it into our port. So we'll say port A, and then we'll test things out. So we're gonna get a result, and we'll do await the echo world, right? And then equal world, and we'll catch. Okay. And with that, we're gonna run our test. Cool. Okay. So we got an invalid type function, expected object received function. So that's coming from our port because it's using Zod. So it expected an object and it received a function. So somewhere up here, we made a mistake. Yep. And it's this link. So we link and pass the environment, and then we have that second function. So we have to kind of call that second function here as well. And then that's going to give us our object. And I think we should be good at that point. Cool. So we are good. And now let's set up a test file. So we've got two tests here, and in the ESM mode with tape, we can't just run tape, you know, star.test.js. They're working on it, but it just doesn't work for ES modules. But we can create a test.js file and import our test. Wonder if I can just say import index test, import adapter test. That would be just killer if I could do that. It works. Cool. So we just kind of created our test runner by just creating a test.js file. And then we can update our package JSON and add some scripts. Like that. And our test. Sweet. We've got our test working. Um, we can add our GitHub Action. So we'll make a directory .github/workflows. And then we'll add test YML. We'll go ahead and exit out of that. And with this, we'll name it test greetings. And on every push, we want to do some jobs. And we want to do a build job, which should run on Ubuntu latest. And we'll use a strategy of matrix. And the node version we want to test is 14x. And then we'll have some steps. And then I'm just going to copy these to save some time. But basically, we want to check out our repository, and we want to use node. And we want to run yarn and yarn test. Cool. We're going to init this folder, and we'll add a README really quick. And again, I'm going to just copy and paste it just for time. Basically, in our README, we want to describe the project, show an example. And in this example, it's kind of showing how we would configure this in hyper63. And now we want to get our code ready to add to GitHub. So we'll create a git ignore, and then we'll add all of our stuff. Whoa, shouldn't have taken that long. Wow. Move our git. So echo modules. Must have misspelled git ignore. Okay. Now git init. Cool. Okay, so we got our first commit. Now we want to create a repo. We'll create Wilson63 slash hyper63 adapter greetings. And we'll update our package JSON to have a namespace. So basically, our adapter and our port need to be NPM modules, and we need to publish them to NPM so that we can pull them in our hyper63 service framework from NPM and configure them. So with that, we can push this up to GitHub, and then we would do an NPM publish. Let me see. Do this. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Okay, so we'll just do npm publish access public. And cool. We have deployed an adapter on npm, and we could pull that into Hyper and start using our really killer Echo greeting adapter. But hopefully, this short screencast gives you an idea of how you would go about kind of building an adapter for hyper63. Again, you want to pick a port and then review that port's schema and then implement the adapter. And we have ports for data, for cache, for storage, and for search. So a really cool project would be the search, implement a search service and create an adapter for that. And then you can start using that search service on Hyper63. Um, so thank you for watching. And the next screencast will show how we take this port and adapter and set up a Hyper63 with those and run it. So have a great day.